ton of talented arms. There's probably more interesting Cy Young candidates on the NL side than there are on the AL side. But, man, the Buffalo just tied the Rangers with 3 seconds left. What a choke by the Rangers. I think I would have taken DeGrom first overall in a draft. I think he's going to win the Cy Young, of course, which is no bold prediction, but I think he offered great value. I think this is going to be like his Sgt. Pepper year, to use a phrase Michael Salfino might use. It's the best Mets team they've had since the World Series team. I think it actually might be better. The lineup is so deep. DeGrom's been grossly unlucky. My bold prediction was that he was going to win 20 games and be an MVP contention. And remember, his career high in wins, for as great as has been, has only been 15. So I think this is going to be the one year we're going to look back and say, yeah, DeGrom's always great, but the one year he really absolutely blew everybody away was this year. That's my prediction on him. So everybody's like, oh, great. Thanks, Pianowski. You told me Jacob DeGrom is good. What else you got for me? Is Juan Soto good too? I'll give you a player most people probably haven't thought about at all. It's a pitcher, right-handed pitcher for the Pittsburgh Pirates, David Bednar, who I will admit I knew nothing about a few months ago. 1 walk, 18 strikeouts, and 8 2/3 spring innings. And I know a lot of spring doesn't mean anything. I still look at walks and strikeouts because those stats stabilize quickly. I also want to look at who's running and who isn't running. Ryan Bloomfield had a great chart on one of his Twitter threads talking about what teams were taking advantage of stolen base opportunities. Every year we see relievers that we don't know a thing about figure things out. They scrap a pitch, they add a pitch, new pitching coach, old pitching coach, new spot in the rubber, different role, whatever. And Nick Anderson 2 years ago, nobody knew a thing about this guy other than his career kind of fizzled out. He'd had some problems off the field. He was a wipeout reliever. And then last year, Devin Williams was one of those guys. And this is just the top of the list. I mean, there's always going to be a bunch of them. And I say, you don't want to draft last year's Nick Anderson or last year's Devin Williams, although Devin Williams should be good. And I would have thought if Nick Anderson hadn't gotten hurt, he would have been fine too. But there will be players you've never heard of who all of a sudden they're on your waiver wire with 2 walks and 12 strikeouts. You're going to want to pick those guys up. I think this guy Bednar, who looks very, very good opening day, 2 strikeouts and a clean inning. I think he's going to be one of those out of nowhere fire-breathing dragon relievers who's valuable in a deeper mixed league.
He hasn't had a year where he didn't have a swinging strike rate less than 14%. That's pretty good. Yeah. Awesome. Ruvain, yours.
So I have one minor bold prediction and one major bold prediction compared to what Scott just said. First of all, the minor bold prediction is that I think only 2 pitchers will hit the 200-inning mark. I think it's going to be Trevor Bauer, and I think it's going to be Lance Lynn. I think those are the only 2 pitchers who will get to the 200-inning mark for all pitchers throughout baseball. But my major bold prediction, and this will go against almost all prognosticators so far in baseball, I don't think that DeGrom will win the Cy Young. I think the Cy Young will be won by a former Cy Young Award winner who had the 4th best ERA in the NL last year, but he didn't qualify for the leaderboard because he didn't have enough innings, and that's Clayton Kershaw. Clayton Kershaw had a very quiet 2.16 ERA last year, and it was only 58 innings. He only played against the NL West and the AL West, so now he gets the rest of the National League, which means he gets to pitch against that wonderful NL Central. He gets to pitch against the lower part of the lower echelon and the lesser hitting teams like the Marlins and stuff like that. So I think that Kershaw is a good bet to win the Cy Young if everything falls right. I think that he can be the one.
I'm going to go with another Met here. Edwin Diaz. I predict that he will lead all of Major League Baseball in saves. First of all, when you're picking a closer, you have to have the role. There's a lot of spots, a lot of situations where we're unsure. I'm pretty sure I know Edwin Diaz has the role here, and that's half the battle. I don't think people realize how skilled he is and how unlucky he has been as a Met. Last year, he struck out 50 batters in 26 innings. That's almost a 50% strikeout rate. That is crazy good. It's better than Nick Anderson. If you extrapolate that to an entire year, which you really shouldn't do, but if you did, you'd have 135 strikeouts. That's equivalent to about a 4th, 5th starting pitcher in fantasy leagues. And by the way, his ERA last year, a terrible year, it was 175. The guy has been a lot better. Talk about bad luck. His BABIP as a New York Met over the last 2 years, 378. Now, if I said that a pitcher has a 325 BABIP over the last 2 years, that's like, oh my God, he's been so unlucky. Batters can have higher, but pitchers should have pretty stable BABIPs. He's 378. That means that gods really don't like him. I mean, they just, we don't like you, Edwin Diaz. We're going to give you bad luck. That is incredible. Look at his home run to fly ball rate. As a Met, been 24%. As a Mariner, about half of that, about 12.5%. I think that, and he's basically being slapped both from the BABIP perspective and from the home run rate. I think he's just been tremendously unlucky. His stuff is sizzling. He throws hard, gets strikeouts, and I think that the home runs, I think, are fluky. And Mets are going to be a good team. He's going to be in there all the time to get saves. We're talking 40-something saves. I think it's going to lead the major leagues.
And I hope a lot of those saves are for DeGrom wins.
There you go.
Let me say something about the Kershaw pick that Ruben put out there. I'm all for Kershaw for his track record, for his ability, certainly for the supporting cast, because the Dodgers, I don't think anybody would dispute they have the best roster in baseball. But worries me about everybody on the Dodgers, like the top-end guys, the Kershaws, the Buehlers, the Trevor Bauers, all wonderful talents, is I get nervous, and maybe I overplay this card. I'll openly say that up front. But I think the Dodgers know. They've won, I don't know how many divisions in a row, 7, 8 divisions in a row. San Diego's very good, and maybe San Diego can push them. But nobody expects Colorado or Arizona or the Giants to be legitimate contenders. And I feel like LA is already thinking, they'll never say this, but they're all like, yeah, we're pretty much in the playoffs already. So if Kershaw has the sniffles, or if Buehler's toe is bugging him a little bit, or Trevor Bauer's, got his back was cranky one day, I just think they're going to be very proactive with load management, very proactive with the injury list, and they're not going to want to tax any of their main arms because they're thinking, okay, we have so much talent, we'll be in the playoffs, so let's just make sure we haven't worn down any of our aces, and then we'll throw that triple header, those 3 studs at people in the playoffs. So I get a little bit nervous. Now maybe this only means you lose 15, 20, 25 innings in the thing. I'm not saying they're going to throw 120 innings or something crazy, and I'm sure it's going to be really hard to get the ball out of any of their hands because they're such competitive players. But that did give me pause sometimes when I got to spots where any of them would have made sense. And I think I have a share of each of them on one of my teams. So it wasn't like I was a hard no. But I'm worried that, again, when these things pop up, when a bump in the road pops up, the Dodgers are going to maybe pull back more proactively than a team that's fighting for its playoff life may do in the same situation.
No, I agree. And the Dodgers have the depth to do that. They can throw in David Price. Yeah, they can throw in Tony Gonsolin. There's plenty of arms that are fully capable starting pitchers that they can do that. Kershaw is they're just going to give him, and with Kershaw, they're not going to limit his innings per start. Like when he pitches, it's 7 innings long. They're going to just skip him. That's what they're going to do, and they'll just have it. You rest. I think Bauer though is safe. I think Bauer is just crazy enough, and he wants to pitch on every 4th day. So the Dodgers will say, okay, you could pitch on every 5th day. We'll let you do that.
I think he also has an opt out in his contract. So maybe
he's pitching for next year.
The Dodgers may be thinking, we want to make sure Trevor's happy here because we want him for a long term. I think that may be part of it too.
Or you can think that they're just going to push him because essentially he just signed a 1 or 2 year deal.
Right.
So just tax him.
He's not our problem long term, sure.
Yeah. So I think Bauer is safe, but I'm going to say Kershaw's not going to win the Cy Young because I just don't think he's going to get enough starts to do that. There's going to be other worthy pitchers that are going to have 4 or 5 more starts than him at a minimum.
Which is why I said everything has to fall the right way. If the Dodgers use a 6-man rotation, it's not going to work out, obviously.
Yep. No, understood. All right, let's do a bold award prediction and a bold team prediction. Let's do them together. Scott, go first to give me some award winner that you think is going to happen and predict one of the team division winners.
Some of my colleagues have been pushing for Ohtani to be a good long shot pick for MVP, and I can see it. Although I wish they would pick a lane with him. When he came over, I thought, why don't they just have him pitch all the time? I think the hitting is a mistake. And then I realized that he was far more talented as a hitter and an offensive player than I ever expected. I think, and then look, Ohtani wants to do both things. And one of the reasons the Angels were able to sign Ohtani is because they gave him the option to play both ways. Where some other teams like, no, you really want you as a pitcher or whatever. narrative is always going to be a part of who wins awards. And if the Angels wind up, I don't think the A's are great. And this is a lesser Houston team. I still think Houston is legitimately the favorite in that division. But I could see the Angels maybe stealing that division if their pitching is a little bit better than expected. And I actually like a lot of their developmental minds in that organization. So I can see the case. I'm not saying Ohtani's going to win MVP. I mean, you're going to pick the MVP for your life. You would pick Mike Trout every time. But there's a little bit of voter fatigue with Trout. I think there's a legitimate chance if you played this season 1,000 times. I think there's a couple of monster Ohtani seasons that would come out, and I think he'd be the type of person that voters would want to vote for.
I like it. And team prediction?
I think the Marlins are going to be a lot better than their projection. Their over/under was anywhere from 71 to 72. Look, the Mets look wonderful on paper, and the Braves have been the class of that division. Philadelphia is still talented. Washington's still talented. But I found myself wanting to draft all 5 of the Marlins starters, and then they started getting all trendy and pricey, and I didn't get as much of it as I wanted to. The question is going to be how much they're going to hit. They certainly didn't hit opening day, although the Tampa Bay staff, in part Tyler Glass now the starter, they're going to make a lot of teams look bad. But I think the Marlins can be around an 80-win team. I thought they were undervalued in the over-under market, even if fantasy. In fact, it may be a case of the fantasy pitching was drafted so proactively that was the tip-off that maybe people are sleeping on the Marlins a little bit. I think they're going to be 7 or 8 wins better than expected.
You know what? I'll agree with that take. I think that they are going to be better than their predictions. ATC projections have simulated the season. They have a 0.4% chance of winning the division. So that would be a bold pick if they did happen to win. Ruvain, how about your give me an award and give me a team situation prediction?
Well, actually, I gave you the award with the Kershaw because that was my bold prediction. I'm going to give you 2 team predictions. First of all, with the Seattle Mariners, I think they're going to make the playoffs. I think they're going to somehow sneak their way in. I think it's that the Rays are going to stumble a little bit, and that the Mariners are just going to sneak in there for one of the wild card spots. I think they're going to bring up Kelenic within a couple of weeks. I think they're going to end up bringing up Julio Rodriguez also sometime this season if they're showing that they're hitting their stride and they just want to put a ridiculous lineup because he was raking in the spring also. So I would watch for the Mariners to make a really nice push and very quiet in the beginning of the season, but then make a push toward midsummer to see them make the playoffs. And my second bold prediction, and this is just for the NL Central in general, I think the winner of the NL Central will either have a 500 record or below. I think they're going to be the NFC East of this past year where a team couldn't get over 500. I think that a team who will have an 81 record could win division.
That would be pretty hard to do. But yeah, I agree. They're pretty close. Let
me ask you really quick. Did either one of you guys see a favorite in that division? If I put your feet to the fire and said, like, I'm going to buy you a new house if you pick the NL Central winner, Who would you pick?
It's clearly the Brewers. That was going to be my bold prediction.
Okay.
I think it's the Brewers. I don't think that they're a 90-win team, but I think 86, 87 wins.
And they have 2 really good starters. They have Brandon Woodruff and they have Corbin Burns. That's a pretty good 1-2 punch right there.
Yep.
It's question marks everywhere else, though.
Well, plus, Freddie Peralta is just ready to explode, man. I don't know what they're going to do with him, what the role's going to be. He pitched 2 wipeout innings in opening day. There's a guy, much like Dustin May, and I guess he's in the Dodger rotation to start the season. It's one of those cases where I know this guy's going to throw good innings. I don't know how many innings. I don't know where they're going to come. I don't know if they're going to be innings that apply to fantasy value as far as wins or saves are concerned. But I think they're going to be such wipeout ratios that I want them anyway. I think Peralta I could have easily used him as my pitching bold prediction or breakout. I think this is going to be a dynamite Peralta season.
Yeah, and Yelich is undervalued. I think he's going to jump back to close to where he was. And, the betting markets have been pretty down on the Brewers over the years, and they've always outperformed, so I like that. My prediction for award, Tyler Glasnow to win the Cy Young Award. Yeah, look at today's outing. And, yes, 6 innings, 6 strikeouts, no runs, 1 hit. But the number that I look at is 0 walks. What was Glasnow's problem the last couple of years? Walks. He only had a 2-pitch arsenal. It's now a 3-pitch arsenal, and he used it well this year. He looks absolutely fine, top to bottom. Health is always a question, but if he pitches, a full season, we're talking 250 strikeouts approaching and a Cy Young Award.
Let's remember, he made 12 starts in 2019. His ERA was 1.78. He looked. I remember thinking this guy is going to be, much like the light went on for Giolito in the last couple of years. I felt like it was going on for Glass now, and then he got hurt at the wrong